Warning. This video blog or vlog may contain harsh language and opinions that are not necessarily in line with YouTube or its partners or affiliates. YouTube does not openly endorse the content of this vlog. All opinions are expressly those of Ranting Ramsey and do not reflect on the opinions or values of YouTube, its affiliates, or its parent or partner companies.
Greetings, Internet people. Ranting Ramsey here. How are you all doing today? I've got a lot to cover in this particular rant, so I'm going to try to be concise and not ramble too much, as we all know that I am prone to do. And what we're talking about, obviously, from the title up there, is we are talking about both MLS and soccer in America in general. Now, anyone who's been watching me for a while knows I'm a huge fan of the Columbus Crew. That is my team. That is the team that I love to watch. It's the team that I support. Because when I really decided that the MLS was worthy of following, that I decided to go with the hometown state. I live in Ohio, and hometown team, so to speak. I live in Ohio, and I live only about an hour away from Columbus. So I decided that since the state in which I live had an MLS team, that I was going to root for that particular team, and I just picked the greatest time to start rooting for them because it was around the time they had their championship run and all this good stuff. So I developed a great love for this team, and the my love for the game of soccer itself actually was it came from just years of being exposed to the sport, but mainly when I was working at a sports bar, a buddy of mine, who his family hails from Ecuador, and not that that really matters, but it's just something I identify him with. We were working at the sports bar during the World Cup 4 years ago, and he just really got me into it with his level of excitement and how into it he was. I couldn't help but get into it because I've always found the sport interesting. And that's the first thing I want to address is there's a lot of people that say, oh, soccer's boring. It's just so, oh my God, it drives me crazy. They don't do anything the whole time. In my opinion, that comes from people who don't understand the game. I'm looking at you, Undertaker. Undertaker freak, looking at you. Anyway, in my opinion, that it's just like any other sport in that if you don't understand the rules of the game, if you don't understand the strategy of the game, if you don't understand how the game should be played when it is played well, of course you won't be interested because you don't know what the fuck is going on. Take, for example, a game of American football. Take the NFL. To someone who is uninterested in that particular sport, that game moves so fucking slowly that it's ridiculous that you have 12 seconds of action, if that, and then 30 seconds of nothing, 2 seconds of action, and then 30 seconds of nothing, 5 seconds of action, and then 30 seconds of nothing. The clock doesn't even move during half of this fucking time. How is that supposed to create any sort of suspense to someone who doesn't understand how the game is played, the nuances of strategy, or the rules of the game itself? It doesn't. It's boring as shit if you don't know what the fuck is going on. The same can be said for any sport. The same can even really be said for hockey. If you don't understand the rules of things like icing and offsides and stuff like that, then you're going to wonder, why the hell is the referee blowing the whistle? Why did he stop the action? What's going on? I don't get it. Any sport will be that way. Soccer is a game of constant motion, of constant building and constant strategy. The basic idea is to move your people into the right positions quickly enough so that you can move the ball down the field and score a goal without the other team being able to do anything about it. But with 11 men on the field, it takes a lot of strategy and a lot of teamwork to do this well. Sometimes it results in jockeying, where you just pass the ball back and forth a little bit to see what the other team is going to do. How is this any different than setting up a play in American basketball or hockey, when everyone settles into the red zone or the scoring zone, whatever you want to call it, depending on what sport you're watching, and then just sets up and passes the ball or the puck around, waiting for that opportunity to score? Why do people rag on soccer so much for doing the exact same thing when it goes on in every fucking sport? I don't understand, and the only conclusion that I can come to is that nobody else understands how the game should be played, because I've never taken the time. In America, this is an anomaly. This is a rarity, because in 90% of the other countries in the world, soccer is a sport that sometimes the entire world or the entire nation stops to pay attention to what these athletes are doing. That is something that just doesn't happen here in America for anything. Even during the Super Bowl, you can find a significant portion of people who aren't watching the game, who don't give a shit about what's going on, and who don't care who wins. But take, for example, the World Cup. There are some European countries where when their team is playing, the entire country grinds to a fucking halt. And 90% of the populace of that country is watching the game. That is a sense of, or a form of unity that is absolutely absent here in the States. But I am getting a little bit sidetracked and a little bit off track. But that's my general view of the game of soccer. People who rag on it and bag on it and say that it's a sissy game just don't understand it enough, don't understand the strategy, and have never seen the pictures of the injuries that some of these players incur. YouTube search here, like insane soccer injuries and stuff like that, and you will see shit happening to these guys that you will just look at and go, wow, if that happened to an NFL player, he wouldn't be able to take it. So there's a level of respect that needs to be held for the players themselves, because they're doing things that most average Americans would not be able to do ever in their life, no matter how hard they fucking tried. So, moving on to the next thing I want to say is that MLS, Major League Soccer, is basically just sorely lacking a piece of fan support, because there are not enough Americans that are interested in the sport, because, I don't know, maybe it's America's like, well, the rest of the world likes it, so we need to hate it, because we're America and we're the rebels, or whatever the fuck that mentality comes from. I don't know. But the real sad thing is that there are a lot of players with real amounts of talent in the MLS that nobody wants to watch. And so there are two bits of news with the MLS lately, with the MLS. God, it sounds so ignorant saying that. It's like the Major League Soccer. No, with MLS that are going on right now. Number one of those is, this really makes me sad. This makes me sad that Clint Dempsey will not be returning to the MLS. He has openly declared that he wants to finish out his career playing in the European leagues, where there's a higher level of play. And there's a part of me that can understand that. If you're really good at something, you want to finish your career in the upper echelon leagues. There's a part of me that's also really sad, because Clint Dempsey is possibly one of the best American soccer players in the world today. And if he were to return to the MLS, he would bring a level of play that would just raise the bar for all of the other players, even players like David Beckham and Freddie Lundberg and Thierry Henry, who have recently gone from the European leagues to MLS. I think if Clint Dempsey were to return, he would just raise the bar even further. Because even though we're getting all this old, washed-up European talent, each time we get someone like David Beckham or Freddie Lundberg or Thierry Henry, the level of skill and the amount of talent required to play the game well in that league goes up just a little bit. So I think the more of these players that we get, even if the rest of the world considers them washed up, they have things to teach the players in the MLS that will raise the MLS's game. And hopefully if it raises the MLS's game, the rest of the world will start acknowledging MLS as a legitimate soccer league, like they recognize La Liga, like they recognize Barclays Premier League, like they recognize Scottish Premier League, like they recognize Italian Serie A. You know what I'm saying? So, it really just kind of makes my blood boil sometimes that we have this crop of talent that could be could be generating a lot of income for a lot of different people, like the workers at the stadiums, people who work for the teams, who don't necessarily play on the teams. There's this massive amount of income that could be generated to help a lot of families and a lot of different people out there that's simply not being generated because America refuses to generate interest in this sport, which is an amazing sport. It's the beautiful fucking game. And it really is, because when you really start to understand it, you just the beauty of this game is just amazing. The moments that this game can produce, it can lift an entire country on an emotional high. What other thing can you possibly think of that can do that? What other activity, sport, anything has the ability to, when a nation's team performs well in Europe, that it lifts the spirits of the entire fucking nation? What do we have like that here in America? Absolutely nothing. So that's basically a long, rambling, just scatterbrained rant about soccer in the MLS. And, wait a minute, there was one more point. Yes, there is one more thing I wanted to mention. This actually kind of gives me hope for the increase or the potential increase in popularity of MLS soccer. And that's the fact that the athlete formerly known as Chad Johnson, I refuse to call him by his new name, but the NFL athlete formerly known as Chad Johnson spent a 5-day training camp with Sporting Kansas City and actually qualified to be on their reserve team. Now, how that provides me hope is that the athlete formerly known as Chad Johnson, has a lot of fans that follow him around, has a large fan base that like him no matter what he does. Excuse me. And if he manages to make it into Sporting Kansas City's first team and actually become a official first-team player in MLS, then that has the potential to bring a lot of attention to the sport for the people that follow him. And hopefully with him, with his flamboyant characteristics, will then bring more attention to the sport too, with his advertising abilities and stuff like that. So, despite how I feel about him as a person, being one of those personalities that I just kind of, it just makes me facepalm, I think he has a potential to bring a lot of attention to the sport. So the end-all be-all of all I have to say is that it kind of irritates me when people hate on soccer when they obviously don't understand the game, how it should be played, the strategy involved, or how it can be just the beautiful game. And like I said, John, I'm looking at you. So, there you go. There you have it. I'm Ranting Ramsey. Tell me what you think. That is all.
Hey, did you get all that, man?
Douche.